Okay, so we talked about all the steps of loading the semi-automatic. So we've got our magazine loaded. We've inserted it. Tap, tug. We've racked the slide. Good job. We got everything all ready to go. We now have one in the chamber. How do we unload the semi-automatic? I know. You go to the range and you shoot them all out, right? That's one way. But let's say you're at home, you've got the gun loaded for self-defense purposes, but you decide you need to clean the weapon. How do you safely unload this firearm? Well, we're going to teach you the 6 steps to unloading a semi-automatic. The 6 steps are to remove the magazine, rack the slide to eject a round from the chamber, rack the slide 3 more times, lock the slide open to the rear, do a visual inspection, and then do a physical inspection. Now we're going to break each one of those down for you so you don't have to remember them just yet. We're going to talk about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So step 1 is to remove the magazine. Why do we want to remove the magazine? Well, as we press this magazine release button, pop the magazine out, we're now removing the source of ammunition, right? So now we've gotten a bulk of the rounds out of there. So we've removed the source of the ammunition. Step 2, we're going to rack this slide to eject the one that's in the chamber out, because as you may recall, we still have one in the chamber. And this is where people get themselves in trouble with semi-automatics sometimes. They don't realize that just because the magazine is taken out does not mean the gun is unloaded. As you can see here, there's still one in the chamber capable of firing. If it were a real round, it would be capable of firing right now. So I've removed the magazine. Step 2 is to rack the slide to remove this round from the chamber. So I'm going to do a proper racking, and I've now removed the round that was in the chamber. Now we say rack it 3 more times. Why do we rack it 3 more times? I mean, we got it out of the chamber, right? Well, we did. And we do this just as a safety precaution. Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that there is nothing left in that gun. And more importantly, we want to make sure we didn't forget step 1. Because what happens if I had this gun loaded, let's get it racked, one's in the chamber, okay? Now I've got this gun completely loaded, and I forget step 1, remove the magazine. I do step 2, rack the slide to eject one out of the chamber, right? And then I go to do step 3, and I go, oh, what's going on? Well, that lets me know that I missed step 1, remove the magazine from the weapon. So again, we just want to rack it 1, 2, 3 more times to ensure that nothing was in there. So we've removed the magazine, we racked it to ensure there was nothing in there, and then we racked it 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. Each time we want to make sure it's racked. So once that's done, we now need to go to lock the slide open. So to accomplish this, what we're going to do is we're going to move the slide back by getting our hand in a good racking position. I'm tilting it upside down so you can see. You would do it like this, but I'm tilting it over so you can see there's a little notch that my slide stop lever needs to move up into. So as I pull it back, you'll see my slide stop lever can now move up into that notch, and I ease forward with the slide. That locks the slide open. So that's step 4, lock the slide open. Step 5, we're going to look visual inspection. We're going to look down 2 planes. We're going to look down the magazine well in the chamber. We're going to look down the chamber and the barrel to ensure that there's nothing in there. So first I'm going to turn it, look down the magazine well, and see that there's nothing between the magazine well and the barrel, or excuse me, and the chamber. And then I want to peek down the back side to make sure there's nothing in the chamber or the barrel. Never, never, never point the gun at your face to look down the business end of the barrel. That's very dangerous. So we're going to look down the back side, and we're going to peek in there. We're going to make sure there's light coming all the way through so that we know there's nothing in the barrel or the chamber. A hint is that you can take it and point it at a light like so, and if you can easily see the light then coming through, it makes it really clear that there's nothing in that chamber or barrel. So we make sure that way, and then we do a physical inspection. Step 6, we take our little pinky and we're going to put it both down into the chamber and the barrel, and then down into the chamber and the magazine well, ensuring that there is nothing in there obstructing. So make sure all the rounds are now out. We can now call this administratively unloaded. Now, why do we go through all 6 steps? Because we want to ensure each time that there is nothing left in that weapon that is going to hurt us. So again, we're going to walk through those steps. We're going to, step 1, remove the magazine. Step 2, rack the slide to ensure that there's nothing in the chamber. We're then going to 1, 2, 3, rack the slide 3 times to ensure that we've remembered step 1, remove the magazine. Step 4, we're going to lock that slide to the rear. Step 5, we're going to do a visual inspection. Make sure there's nothing in there. Step 6, physical inspection to make sure there's nothing in there. Again, once we've completed all 6 steps, we can now call this weapon administratively unloaded. Why do we call it administratively unloaded? Well, remember the safe rules? Suppose all guns are always loaded, right? So this gun should be treated as loaded except for when we administratively unload it, because there are times when we have to unload it to perform certain functions in a safe manner, such as cleaning. So we have to have a way to get this in a state that is safe for us to operate it in for cleaning. So we call it administratively unloaded, not to be confused with just unloaded. What's the difference? Administratively unloaded means it's unloaded now that I've done all the 6 steps and I'm maintaining control of this weapon. But if I should put it down, walk away for a couple minutes, or put it in the safe, even if I leave it in this condition, I put it in my safe, I come back an hour later, get it out, what do I want to do? Treat this as a loaded weapon. So I would start the 6 unload steps all over again. Because if I've lost control of this weapon, excuse me, and because if I've lost control of this weapon, there's no way for me to ensure that nothing has gotten in there. So I would simply start the process over. Step 1, remove the magazine. Step 2, rack the slide to ensure there's nothing in the chamber. Step 3, rack the slide 3 more times. Step 4, lock the slide open. Step 5, do a visual inspection. Step 6, physical inspection. Now, as you can see, I wasn't going through that super fast. I was just going through it methodically. And would that take about 15, 20 seconds? So hopefully you're not too busy so that 15 or 20 seconds is too much for you to do and take out to be safe. Remember, there is nothing that takes the place of safety. So now we've talked about loading a semi-automatic. Now let's say we've gone through the proper loading steps. I've loaded my magazine. I've inserted the magazine with a tap tug, and I've racked the slide to get one into the chamber. But now let's say I've had it in this condition, maybe in my safe for a little while, or I've gone to the range with it, and I want to be sure that when I go to shoot my first round, there's one in there, and I want to be absolutely positive there's one chambered. We can now do something called a press check. All a press check is a way to visually and physically inspect inside of the chamber to ensure that there is a round ready to go. So the way we do a press check is we're going to take our support hand and we're going to take the knuckle on our index finger of our support hand. We're going to kind of push it up here onto the rear sights, and then we're going to take our thumb and hook it under this back strap here. Notice I'm hooking this thumb under the back strap, and then we're just going to kind of do a pinching motion with our finger and thumb. So I'll kind of do like this. And with this motion, I can now visually see that there's a round in the chamber. I can also take my pinky and feel that there's a round in the chamber. For instance, if it was dark out and I wasn't positive, I could get that finger in there and feel it. So I now know there is one in the chamber. And then I can return it to its ready condition. Now this happened to go back. The spring is very good on this. So it happened to go right back for me. But sometimes when you do this, the spring doesn't get it back into battery, we call it, or fully seated with the slide. So what you'd want to do is after a press check, you'd want to give a little tap on the back of the slide to ensure that it was fully seated or in battery.